Hey, Future Alex here. I just wanted to come in and say that while I was editing, I noticed that I made a bit of an error. See, when we bought this car and when we had looked at a Taos before that, the dealer had told us this car was a 1.6 liter, 153 horsepower inline four. It is in fact a 1.5 liter, 158 horsepower turbocharged inline four. I should have double checked this when I was writing my notes before this, but I should have checked before when I was doing my notes for this, but I didn't. So I'm just coming to clarify that when you hear me say it's a 1.6, just know that that guy's an idiot. But anyway, this is a new series that I'm hoping to do more of in the future, called As Good As It Gets. And we will be focusing on what I consider to be the best of the best in its category. So stick around, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Shopping for new cars these days has become such a pity. I mean, most of the sedan cars in this class have gone away completely or have become DSG cars with no soul. Fortunately for me and my mother, who was looking for a new sedan car with a manual transmission, Volkswagen still hasn't lost the manual touch. Their new Jetta, which is what we have right here, the 2022 model year, came with a 6-speed manual, a brand new from the Taos, 1.6 liter straight four with a tiny little turbocharger, and all of the fun of the cars that it seems to have lost in competition. So let's take a look at this today. For the 2022 model year, Volkswagen decided to drop the R-Line name from the Jetta and instead chose to call it a Sport. Now in my book, calling a car a sport model without giving it any sportiness is a sin. I'm looking at you, Subaru. But this car actually does live up to its name. The little 1.6 liter that Volkswagen fitted to this car came out of the Taos. It only makes about 153 horsepower. But in this chassis, it's perfectly fine. It's a very fast revving engine mated to a very notchy 6-speed manual transmission with a clutch that is very light, but with a nice bite point up at the top. It means that you aren't really fighting for it, although trying to hill start this car is a bit of a challenge. Volkswagen spared literally every expense they possibly could in this car. No plastic engine cover, no beauty, anything, honestly. Plastic intake manifold, and a little tiny baby turbo. But that little tiny baby turbo on this engine is very responsive and makes kind of fun noises because from what I can see, there is no diverter plate. I'm curious to see how this engine does in the aftermarket though. I can imagine people will try to put bigger turbos on them. Just like Honda's 1.5 liter that's in the Integra and the Civic and the Accord and the CR-V, and they've been known to make pretty good power, and I'm curious to see what Volkswagen tuners can come up with this. It is an economy car coming in at $22,000, so it will be getting into the hands of people who will want to tune it more. On the topic of price, most of the cars in this class have kind of priced out or disappeared altogether. This car comes in at about $23,000 after tax, which puts it competitively where the Corolla and Camry used to be. And this still comes in a manual transmission, although there is still a manual option of the Corolla. And there are performance versions. There is a performance version of this as well. The GLI comes with the powertrain out of my GTI, although the engine computer is kind of stupid and won't let you head redline. The Civic and the Accord are still around and still do come in manual, but I've heard are kind of pathetic for what they are with numb steering, and I'm being stared at by a Honda lover behind the camera. And even the Civic Si, again, a performance edition of the same car, comes with the same engine, comes also with a $27,000 price tag and a, well, kind of meh driving experience. Although they are fun to some people. I prefer my German. He's coming around the camera. I'm going to start running now. Moving on to cargo, Volkswagen was very nice to give you things to hold whatever you decide to put in the trunk. Either these right angle things with Velcro on them, which are very helpful. We corral watermelons with them usually, or the typical cargo net. Trunk space in this car is pretty good, capable of holding 1.5 dead bodies. Volkswagen decided that there was no real reason for you to be able to get to your back or to your trunk from the back seat. There is no way to pop these seats down from here. What you have to do is go into your trunk. So say it's raining right now and you need to get something. You have to pop it there, run back around, pull the seat down, and then feed whatever you want to push through. It's just unnecessary steps, but for a car this good, it's something you have to live with. Moving into the interior now, we're going to start in the back seat and work our way forward. For somebody my height, the back seat is a pleasant place to be. Although my knees do hit the back of the seat in front of me when the seat is in my position, a shorter driver would have a much better time with people in the back. There are pockets everywhere in this car. Both door pockets have a little cup holder for bottles. There is cup holders in the center. No ski hole, although I've never once used it in the GTI. Lighting up top, that looks like it came out of a Mark 6 Golf. And seatbelts for 3. Although I can't imagine actually putting 3 people back here. But I will try. We're doing the 3 people test.
Excellent. I'm gonna have to straddle the
Yeah, it's all good.
There's something over there.
Is there?
Nope, it's alright now. Close the door. And you're good to go.
Comfortable?
No.
Yeah, I figured. Well, as sedans tend to go, there isn't usually much room for 3 people in the back, and I can hear his head rubbing on the ceiling, but in a pinch, this would work just fine. Now it's very hot in here because we don't have the AC on. I want to get out.
Yes.
All right. While it is possible to have 3 people in the rear of this car, we did notice while we had 3 people in the rear that the suspension does get dangerously low. So keep that in mind. The interior of this car is rather nice. A new radio was put in that does not have Sirius XM, but really who cares these days? And the digital dash cluster was put in, which I rather like. You can change what you need to see when you need to see it. If the door was closed, you would be able to see more of it, and I will add some of that. There is also still physical heater controls down here, like in my Mark 7, so you get a lot of the amenities of the Mark 8 with some of the downfalls. The materials on the wheel are a little bit hard and kind of cheap, but build quality overall is still very Volkswagen. It hasn't gotten the Mark 8 drawbacks quite yet. You still get a little creaks here and there, but that's to be expected with plastic. As for the digital gauge cluster, it's great. It shows you the information you need and even nags you a little bit when you should be upshifting for fuel economy. There isn't really much I can say in here. There's not a lot going on. There's just enough to keep you focused on driving, but not enough to distract you, and not so little that it's hard to do anything. Being able to change the temperature without having to dig through the screen is very nice. The shifter and the clutch are another great experience. The clutch is very light, and the bite point is right about at the top. First, second, third, and fourth are very well spaced, and fifth is not as close as the GTI, so fifth and sixth are something you can't accidentally hit. Reverse is typical Volkswagen, push down and over. And you get a nice backup camera. Although it doesn't fold into the Volkswagen logo like my GTI does, it does stay on, so you can use it if you are trying to roll back. So now we finally get to the interesting part, which is, what is this thing like to drive? Calling something as good as it gets, especially right now with how good cars are, is a very big title for anything. And I think that this car actually does deserve it. Mostly because it's just out-survived everything around it. But with that 1.5 liter inline 4, this very, very fun 6-speed manual transmission, and how responsive the turbo is, with enough lag to let you know that it's there, I think this is really an incredible car. And it also doesn't sound very bad. This is a completely stock car that I genuinely enjoy the sound of. That isn't to say Volkswagen might not be messing with the sound a little. That's very likely, as a matter of fact. Volkswagen does like to cheat. I'm stuck behind a dump truck. Anyway, the car is very nimble, it sounds good. On this very nice back road, it's very tight, planted, and the only thing I can even say as a bad thing is the steering's a little numb. But if you've driven any Volkswagen cars recently that aren't GTI or GLI, that's kind of par for the course, and even par for the course for a lot of modern electronic power steering cars. So I'll give it a pass on that just because that's the time we're in these days. But in the end, I think if you're looking for a cheap manual car that calls back to what cars really should be, as refined as they are, but still very fun and playful, and a little bit of terror that it might snap back at you. I think that the 2022 Jetta is a great car. And I will give it a pass for being called a sport trim, even though there's nothing sporty about this car, unless you get the manual, which I believe is the only trim that the manual comes in, so that's convenient. So is this as good as it gets? For now, yes, and that is a little sad. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This is the first of these videos. Any mistakes I might have made were just because I'm still trying to get acclimated with the format here. I'm not an automotive reviewer yet. I'm trying my best. And if you like this, of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. But as always, peace out, everyone. So I just pulled in after finishing that last little scene there, and I forgot, because this is a Volkswagen and it does like to nag when you turn the car off, it reminds you to it reminds you to not forget your cell phone. And you almost feel like that please had to be added for the American market.